a garment is a garment, you're wearing it, but it's the jewelry that can add in that transformation. Two women could be wearing the same black dress, but their jewelry could really define them.
Paisley, you've seen it everywhere. On your kurta, your grandmother's sari, your bed sheets. But did you know it isn't Indian?
Paisley is a town, I think, somewhere in Scotland. That is where the shawls from Kashmir used to go to be sent. So it came to be known as the Paisley motif. So the Wear Your Prayer has been my way of reaching out to as many people as possible.
Some designers create jewelry, others create stories in gold. Today on Expressions, we are joined by Pallavi Foley, one of India's most celebrated contemporary jewelry artists, known for her sculptural, fearless and futuristic forms. From designing the Miss India Universe crowns to being honored as the Elsa Peretti of India by the World Gold Council, Pallavi's journey is one of instinct, imagination, and inner vision. She says she follows her inner eye. And today, let's explore the world through hers.
Welcome to Expressions. Today I have a gorgeous guest with me, Pallavi. We've been studying about her, reading about her, and her beautiful pieces of jewelry. Let's get to know her more. Hi Pallavi, thank you for joining me on Expressions. You're looking gorgeous. I would love to start by you describing us the piece that you're making. I'm guessing it's from your new collection. So,
Thank you so much for having me, Neha. And it's a brilliant job. I in fact really like the setup that you've got. And yeah, I've been hearing some of your podcasts.
Thank you.
And I like the way it just casually flows, which is lovely.
Yes.
Yeah, this piece is actually one of the pieces from the Dragon collection.
Okay.
It's like the fire dragon.
Wow.
And I was just working on flexibility. So it's really an extension of one of the experiments where I worked on how it can flow and the various ways it can be worn in. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with my work.
Yes.
It's really my passion.
It clearly shows. So, I'd like to go back to the beginning. Do you remember the first piece of jewelry that left a strong impression on you, an item you encountered as a child that's just simply struck you?
So, I was thinking about this a while back, and like, what was the first piece of jewelry that I really saw? It takes me back to this memory with my grandmother. And I must have been about 7, 8 years old, and I went to the locker with her.
Okay.
And I was standing there while she was, getting the jewelry out of the lock. I think there's something that she was going for, some wedding. I don't clearly remember that. But she took out this piece of jewelry and those boxes, that smell. I can vividly remember the smell of the locker. And then the jewelry, the boxes all looked very fascinating. And then she went home and got ready that evening. And she wore her sari, and then finally she wore those jewelry pieces in. And I think it did something more to her. It transformed her. She's standing better. She's almost feeling like, a queen wearing that jewelry. So I've seen that transformation that jewelry really does. And then came in my grandfather. And her name was, Malika Rani. And he just...
Oh, that's one of your collections.
That's one of my collections, And she was in fact wearing that earring that, she gave me. It was that moment where, he said in Punjabi to her, he said, you really look like a Rani today. So, the jewelry I feel can really transform. And I think that is the power and the transformation that I saw that made me realize that a garment is a garment, you're wearing it, but it's the jewelry that can add in that transformation to the garment. Two women could be wearing the same black dress, but their jewelry could really define them.
Absolutely. Very well said.
Thank you.
So as a child, you drew on walls and imagined structures in 3D. Today, you sculpt in gold and other metals, I'm sure. So how has your relationship with space and structure evolved over the years?
Interesting question. I think a lot of our learnings go back to our childhood. and my father is a builder. Even then he was constructing some apartment, and I would spend a lot of time walking around the buildings without walls.
Okay.
So, just he would go to check it out with his architect, and I would go with him, running around the entire space. So that actually gave me a great understanding of space and dimension. But also at the same time, it taught me something else, that the care that goes into making and thinking about the whole process, the empathy that goes into thinking about not yourself first, but to think that the other person who has to live here, how much care can I put into that place?
Sure.
That actually was something that stayed with me. So one, it gave me a form understanding. On the second hand, it taught me how much care you put into a place, how much thinking goes behind it, is what finally defines the outcome of the place.
Sure, sure.
Outcome of a product.
Yeah.
So that learning sort of stayed.
And it must have happened very unconsciously and effortlessly,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you wouldn't have even realized that
No.
it's coming into you.
In retrospect, when you see these things, I think childhood plays such an important role.
Yeah.
Which we don't even
Shapes, yeah.
see, really how much it
Yeah.
shapes one.
Yeah. So you never thought of interior designing when you saw your, I mean, you moved
I
straight.
absolutely love architecture. I
Okay.
take a lot of my inspiration from art, architecture, nature also. But I never thought of it because I went to study design at NIFT,
Yeah.
Delhi. And very soon, in the second year itself, I decided that I love jewelry because it
Yeah.
was like sculptures.
Yeah.
I think that same learning, which was very three-dimensional and structural,
Yeah.
I wanted to put into jewelry.
Okay.
So it so happened. But yes, saying that I love
Interiors.
what a place can really do.
Yeah.
How interestingly
Yeah.
it can speak.
Yeah.
At some point, maybe I will
Yes.
do a brand which has
All
home.
of this.
Yeah.
So you've said that jewelry involves as much science as art. Could you walk us through a moment where an engineering challenge forced you to completely redesign or rethink a creative idea?
Actually, many times. It's not just once. Every single time, there is art, but when you make a product, it requires a lot of science. It requires balance. You need to really get the thickness. If there's a diamond that needs to be set,
Sure.
the exact thickness of a prong that goes over it, how much it needs to sort of go overlap over the diamond so it's secure. The balance in terms of, even when a necklace is made, you could put one stone here and then the other one a little bit away, just as a visualization.
Yeah.
But would it flip? So ergonomics, understanding the human body, the interaction of the human body.
Yeah.
So at all times, today a lot of stuff is made on 3D,
Yeah.
using a lot of softwares. But irrespective of that, there is, even in that, after a product is made at the stage of prototyping, there's definitely a need for a design engineer to come in, to see the product. Because if it is going to be made such that, it's again the concept of care coming into the product.
Yeah.
How much do you think about it in totality?
Sure.
So whether it's, design the crowns which were done for Miss India, and we
Yeah.
figured that it was a little bit different girls. So our research process, in the research process, I realized that one of the Miss Indias told me that the crown is never secure on the head. So I went back to designing it and then engineering it, sitting with a few engineers as to how an adjustable crown can be done so that, you feel the contestant who's winning it. It's such an important moment in her life. She should feel secure about that moment.
Yes, absolutely.
So design and
But
engineering.
one doesn't realize that there's so much of science and physics and all of this
there's
behind
everything,
a jewelry.
physics, chemistry, maths, everything comes into design. It's the dreaming part of it, or you're visualizing an idea, eventually becomes a smaller part. But to realize a good product requires a lot of hard work and care.
Yeah, that's off. So I also admire the sense of movement and dynamism you have in your work. Your pieces almost just feel so alive, like even this. So since you think in 3D and also follow your inner eye that you've mentioned, could you take us through your design process? How it happens? What do you do?
The design process uh, has evolved over the years, but I think I still go back to the very basics of sketching an idea.
Okay.
I think the first thing is that when you get an idea, it's important to take that pen and paper and sketch it.
Yeah.
That sketching is really critical because it's the direct link between your brain and your hand. It's a skill that you just quickly sketch out an idea, you've saved it. Then comes the process of refining it, researching if it's a motif that I'm working on, say a mango motif, a paisley. The idea is to study it in depth.
Okay.
So if you see, it looks like, Goddess Lakshmi's footsteps, the mango itself, it's a paisley. In Kashmir, the motif is called, it's called paisley. Paisley is a town, I think, somewhere in Scotland. That is where the shawls from Kashmir used to go to be sent after that, with that motif. So it came to be known as the paisley motif.
Okay.
So there's so many things when you start studying about the motif, the different, it's worn on the forehead as a sarpesh. So
lot of history, huh?
lot of history. So it's important before you design to understand what the motif stands for in all its ways, the way it, sort of shows itself out.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So when you talk about your collection in a year, you design about 3 collections?
Two collections.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's also hard because it takes a lot of effort. It takes so much of hard work. Also, an idea has to come. Sometimes you just don't have the idea, and it's okay. I let it go if it's not something that's really coming to me.
Okay. And how long does it take to convert the idea into actual pieces?
3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Anywhere from 3 to 6 months. However, if it's a collection that requires a specific kind of meenakari or a specific kind of diamond setting, the old Indian cut, that's the kundan, then it could take still longer.
Okay, got it. And how would you describe the evolution of your aesthetic? I mean, how do you characterize the women who are drawn to your jewelry?
Okay, I actually feel like I design for all the women. And but there is a woman who is design discerning, who wants to wear something that is created, and a lot of thought and care has gone into it. So I think a more luxurious, as luxury only from the standpoint of the woman feeling that care has gone into the product, love has gone into that product. But I as a designer, my instinct is to have as many people that I can reach. If I've made a good product, I really want people to wear it.
And do you have any sort of celebrity whom you want to design? I mean, you have a dream project?
I've had some celebrities. I think one of the first people who walked the ramp for me was Alia Bhatt.
Okay.
And so it's very fascinating to have celebrities walk the ramp, but I find it as fascinating when I'm able to touch that moment in someone's life, which is really important. So if somebody wore it on their wedding, whether or not a celebrity, but it was an important moment in their life. And there was a lady who told me that her son was going for the Olympics, and she came and bought one of the pieces from the prayer collection, which has the Gayatri Mantra written. Now, such a joy it was.
Nice. And would you say that the most women who come to you, are they little mature, or they are the the younger ones? I mean, what kind of profile?
So I would say right from 25 to no age limit. Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
There is always an element of unexpected in your work, right? Of the unexpected. So what draws you to this unconventional approach?
I don't think of it as unconventional when I'm designing it. I really follow my own instinct as to if I'm drawn to a particular form, motive, thought process.
Okay.
So I follow it. It's very much a part of me that I bring out. I think it's hard to not connect with your the ideas that you have and then work on it.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to just work on something that you're connected with.
Yeah.
I think the truth comes out.
Yeah.
And that is important.
Yeah, and you're
It's authentic, it's
Yeah.
truthful, you're feeling it. Say, for example, the prayer collection. I actually felt that, I wanted to put the various prayers like the Mahamrityunjay, the Gayatri Mantra, the Lakshmi Mantra. It's like different points in our life, we need different supports, things that, help us.
Yeah.
So I would put those in it, and I think then if I'm feeling like, no, I'm drawn to dragons, I'm watching something, I'm reading about it, with my daughter or any of that, it just feels nicer, then you start studying it, it's something that fuels your imagination.
Yeah. No, but I seriously love your prayer collection. I think it's so meaningful, and it's got that depth. And I mean, like you said, that you put in your feelings and emotions into it. So people, I'm sure, would connect so deeply to it. So your work also features incredibly bright, vivid gemstones. Some of them I've seen the collection. So how do you go about sourcing them, and what is your criteria for the perfect stone?
So my design work usually starts from the design and then I get the stone. Very rarely does it start from the stone.
Okay.
So first it is about the idea, the thought process. So if I want it very vivid, very colorful, then I get the stones according to the sketch that I've done. But the visualization fully happens in the head, then on the paper, and then the rendering happens. You see it in clarity and then go towards the gemstone. So the material is not as important as the idea is, as the thought process is.
Right.
So that is...
and even the color combination.
color combination. It's all like I would first put it together.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I put the gemstones in design, because my design thinking is that it's not about stringing the gemstones together. It's not about... it's about the idea. It's the words that are there that are more important. It's how do you bring out something by hiding something else. So how do you exaggerate, proportion, balance, all of that to be created. And if there's an idea that I'm trying to just talk about space in that jewelry piece, person should really feel it.
Also in your collection, like Malika Rani and Indian Rose, the colors used are so captivating. So what inspired you to open into a color palette which is so exciting? And also, what colors are you drawn towards? I mean, is there any specific palette that you're drawn towards?
I love the shades of pink and green. I just love them. Actually, very natural colors. So like the very floral, happy, bright
very
colors.
Feminine also.
I like to do those. And also this particular meenakari is like called the gulabo. So I use that. So a lot of historical techniques that I like to use. But the good part is today there is technology. And when one blends technology with the craft, there is you can really make the flower alive. Things that we couldn't do with craft, but we could do with technology, then take the craft. That combination is lethal.
Sure.
It can really create sculptures using bright colors. And if I really want to see something that looks true and alive, I want a flower, I want to mimic it. Today it's possible to do it with both so the constraints are becoming lesser. The exploration is more.
Sure. I mean, you also use the old world craftsmanship with enamel and meenakari. So how important is that to your modern brand?
Very important.
Okay.
Utterly important. I feel like it's just using the technology with the craft. So I blend both. I find I love technology. I love using AI, and I love using the latest technology. If there's a software, I will want to master it. So I love that. It's one of those things that gets me alive. And at the same time, I have great love for the craft. So I feel like that's a great that's a point. Yeah, like I was saying, a little combination, getting both together.
Yeah.
So what the craftsman can do are beautiful meenakari techniques, the kundan work that is possible, the close settings that could be done. There's so much.
Yeah.
The motifs are beautiful, but how could we take it further? My entire, I feel like the design process is running after innovation. How do we move from here? It's not, the craftsmanship is lovely, I'm going to take it to the next step. And that's something that pushes me a lot.
But you can't still, AI or any other technology can't match the craft, like you said, the craft.
Right. No. So like when you're thinking, I want to use everything. And I feel like, say for example, wearable technology.
Yeah.
So a jewelry piece that can actually measure your temperature, can tell you your stress levels, things like that. This technology is here to stay. We're not going behind in time. We're going forward. How could we blend the technology with the craft? And the new technological advancements that are happening in AI, in various other fields. It cannot be something that we can close ourselves to. And there's no need. Technology is with us.
Yes. Very well said. Interesting. Are you going to be doing that?
I'm working on something. I love it. I love the idea of bringing in. I have designed for a brand in the US, which it was a design project, where it was about the safety of women. So the product was a necklace that a woman could wear, and in case of trouble, she just had to press a little button which was hidden, which nobody else could see. So yeah.
Wow, so cool.
Thank you.
Was there any major turning point or moments during your relationship with Tanishq that shaped you as a designer?
Oh, that was a lovely experience. I worked with them for a decade.
Yes.
And it was, for a young person, it was an absolutely amazing experience. I met so many amazing people, like the person who started it, Mr. Desai, Mr. Xerxes Desai, and he was an amazing visionary. The beauty of it was that you could sit and tell him your vision. And I think he valued that very much. The fact that you could visualize, you could think, critically put across a thinking pattern, a new idea. And it was always very welcome. So yeah, it was a very beautiful experience where I met.
So he was one of your mentors?
Yes. He and Jacob Curry, and there were so many amazing people there. Even the people I worked with, the designers, the marketing. I think it was a lovely mix of people. They're a great team.
And designing the Miss India Universe crowns in 2006 and 7 must have been a massive responsibility. So how does a young designer, you were, I'm sure very balance ego, pressure, national symbolism when creating something that represents an entire country?
It was a big responsibility, and I got that. So for me, I sat back and I said, I'm going to research. So my entire thing is always, how do I study this before I get on the table and sketch it? So I went and met many Miss Indias. Nafisa Joseph being one of who's no longer there. A really sad story, but I met her, and she said that, the crown doesn't fit well. Then I met a few other Miss Indias who all gave me things that I wish it had something to do with India. I wish the crown had a tika on it, a little tika that would say best of luck to us, something very Indian in it, yet representing what it stood for, like a universe crown has to stand for the universe. So I went back to all those learnings and my research and pulled out from the research really what I could do. So I brought in the Indian aspect of a little tika on the forehead, which drops on the forehead, the aspect of the universe, the colors like the national bird, the peacock. So I took inspiration from all of that and created the crowns.
Oh, nice. Do many people do that? I mean, go and do so much research, because that makes it more valuable.
Needed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's needed. I think it's a very important step in the design process. It shouldn't be missed, because if you miss it, then you miss a lot of the understanding that you could have had. It again goes back to how much you care about your project. How hard are you ready to work for it? Are you ready to sit up the whole night, not care about your weekends and sit down and work? So
Good to know that. Yeah.
that is where it comes
Yeah.
down to, but it is incredibly important. I don't think anybody who's designing should miss the research part, because it gives you so much understanding of the customer, of the idea that you have, a motive. It could be anything, even a technology. If I'm planning to use that technology, I need to understand it in detail. Before, does it need to be waterproof? If I'm designing something, what can it harm anyone? We all want to live long, and we want our products that we can trust.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
building that trust means that the person who's creating it has to work on it, has to think about it, has to run it through as many tests as possible to create something good.
Nice. Good to know that. You also speak about democratizing jewelry. That is creating everything from rupees 5,000 to masterpieces. So, how do you ensure that luxury remains accessible without losing its sense of exclusivity?
So there are two parts to this. As a designer, I really want my products to reach out to everyone. If I've made something really nice, I want it to reach as many people. If it can help somebody, I want it to help everyone. But on the other hand, luxury in itself, is exclusive. So it is a contradictory thing in itself. But the best way that I've realized to do it is to make sure that the brands are sort of segregated. So I have Pallavi Foley Boutique, which does luxury. Then there's Pallavi Foley, and then there's Wear Your Prayer. So the Wear Your Prayer has been my way of reaching out to as many people as possible. Even we in fact had a recent tie-up with Swiggy where we did those little prayers. I wanted it to reach as many people.
Wow, how did that go? Talk to us about it.
It's very interesting. It is available. The Wear Your Prayer is available. It's a lower price point where people can order the prayer out from Swiggy. We are also doing it on Blinkit so that it's available.
Okay, lovely, lovely. And what have you learned from building a brand from the scratch? How have you managed to grow your business so solidly and consistently?
I usually use a blend of the business principles and the design principles, business principles that I've learned over the years. And I use creative thought process and I blend the two and I work on it. But I think one of the things that has really helped me is something from the design world, which is when I design, I feel like I'm fearless. I can make anything I want. I don't have an inhibition. And I use that in my business as well. So I don't stop myself from things that I should be doing, experiments that I should be doing. And I go out there and I, in fact, encourage my team as well to, try out new things. It's okay to fail. So
what about family? How do they play a role in your success?
A very important role. They keep me safe, and of course my daughter is my biggest strength, and the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me was to become a mother. And I can't even explain it. I don't have words. I think most people who have children can't explain how beautiful that feeling is to be a mother, the love. You feel a whole new person that emerges from there, who's ready to give more, and there is no limit. But I learned so much back from her. It's amazing.
So in your Wear Your Prayer collection, you transformed patterns into prayers. So do you believe jewelry can serve as a silent therapy or emotional armor? And is spirituality making a comeback in the in jewelry mainstream?
I think so, but I never thought of it that way. So for me, it was really to put the prayers out there to give strength. So there was a friend of mine who was going through, it started out like that. She was going through a very hard time. And she came to me and said that I don't want to live anymore. And it was I was like, what's happening? And then I made this little Gayatri mantra, with the Gayatri mantra, I made a little egg. It was a handmade piece. We hadn't used any technology in it, nothing. And I just gave it to her and I said, next time you have this thought, you're going to hold on to this. And it worked very well for her. She felt very strong. And today she's married, she lives in Singapore. And she's very happy. And I think it was just that little thing. And then I said, okay, maybe, and I started seeing the various prayers. went back. In fact, my grandfather used to hear the Mahamrityunjay mantra. I used to be in Delhi, and he would come to the NIFT campus, pick me up, take me for a walk to Lodi Garden, and while we were going, he would tell me about all the mantras. That he said you should see this, you should hear the Dhanvantri mantra, various prayers. But obviously, over a period of time, all that was forgotten, and it came back to me. And like I was saying, so much of it is in our childhood. We've already heard it, know it.
Always comes back. Actually,
always comes back, and it was a natural transition. I wanted to make it. I feel it gives a lot of strength. I don't think we ever forgot our spirituality. I think our spirituality in India is so deep-rooted that we don't forget it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So talking about, since you spent a lot of your time in Delhi too, just curious to know, what do you think is the difference between the trends that is followed in Delhi and in Bangalore? Do you have any take on that?
I actually see not too much of a difference. Delhi might be more flashy and Bangalore more understated. But nonetheless, I love Bangalore. This is home. I love it.
Absolutely. So with the rise of AI and 3D printing, are you concerned for the future of traditional craftsmanship? And do you also have plans to incorporate these new technologies into your work?
Absolutely. I plan to incorporate every single thing into the designs, and I love the crafts. I don't think crafts can ever be substituted. They are our strength. There is so much beauty in our Indian crafts, especially the jewelry making crafts. The world wants them. So the technology can only uplift it, can take it to another plane. But the crafts are beautiful. I feel they're beautiful, and if we blend the two, it's a lethal combination. That's what I believe, and I use it in my design. Like in the Indian rose, we've made 3-dimensional flowers because technology allowed us to do that, and then the enameling could be done on that. Carving started from that 3D point, so we already had a beautiful structure to work on. So it's how we can take it further. And it's so lovely. The craftsmen themselves are so good with it. There was a craftsman I was working with, and he was telling me that next time we will make the link more 3-dimensional so that I can do the carving from the side as well. And so the technology is there. We have to leverage it.
Any particular AI tool you use that you would like to suggest?
I actually use the AI tool. I wouldn't really be able to tell you which is the best tool. I believe VO is a great tool. But at the same time, Meta is doing so much stuff. But what I use Matrix in my design, which is the 3-dimensionality. So I use that software. It's brilliant.
You said travel helps you discover your soul. So can you recall a specific city journey that completely changed your creative process?
Every journey has changed me. But the one that changed me the most was a trek I did with my daughter to the Everest base camp. It was a life-changing trek.
How so?
We trekked for 15 days. And so we landed in Lukla and went all the way up walking. And there's so many learnings. It's really tough. So the first few days, the trek, it's very rocky and the climb is very steep. So I hurt my knee a little bit and I was like, maybe I cannot make it. But the learning from then was that you have to learn to walk at your pace. So the nature teaches you. And if you're walking at your pace, you're not worried. You know you're going to make it. There's no rush. There's no, there's nothing else to reach. You're going to reach the Everest base camp when you can, when your 2 legs are going to allow you the strength you have. There is nothing in that area. There are no cars when you go up the Himalayas. No cars. There are only yaks, mules, horses, and human feet. That can get you there, and a helicopter to get you back if you're not really
made it.
If you've not made it or there's some emergency. But that's the only way to get there, and it is the most beautiful.
And your daughter actually went through this?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was lovely, and it was lovely because it is a bond so I think she's the perfect partner to go with.
What formal rules did you find most helpful to learn, and which ones did you have to eventually unlearn to find your creative voice?
What I learned was everything. Form follows function, balance, proportion. How do you draw something out of scale? How do you get attention to something? How do you play with void, space, various principles in design, how to sketch right, three-dimensionality, all of that. But realizing all of that was I realized that was, studying fashion in terms of what are the trends, how do you follow them, how do you create them, all of that was fine. And I put that aside, and over a period of time, my learning evolved to the fact that all I need to give in a product is extreme amounts of love and passion. Because, like if you're making something for your daughter or your family, you take so much care and you put so much love into it, it just tastes better. Or if you eat at your parents' place, you're like, I don't know why the food is so nice. So I think that love, care that goes into the project just changes everything.
So true. So
and that's the key ingredient to really changing the way you work on a product. So those are the tangible aspects, and this is like the main aspect, because then once you love the project, you have passion for it, you'll put in everything you have. And you will care about the person you're designing for.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. So thousands of people wear your prayers, your crowns, and your ideas. When you think of legacy, is it about awards, innovation, or something more deeper?
I think for me, legacy really is that moment in someone's life where the product was important and it made it, it stayed with them. Okay. It's like it's a ring which somebody wears forever. There was a customer, she had come, her mother was unwell, and she bought one of the prayers and she put it on her during the when her mother was getting operated, and just she believed in the prayer. It wasn't the product, it was the prayer there. But she believed in it, and her mother recovered, and she felt so good about it. So that moment that was very important to somebody, and the product stood by. Could be trusted. It's a good piece that stands there. I think that is important. That is most important to me. I think that is legacy.
Your daughter Nia?
Yeah, Nia.
So she calls her, she's a part of your design team?
She says that. She says that. In fact, I told her to study, we were all telling her you should study design. It's something. And she's like, but I've already studied that. All my life I've been doing design, yes.
But has motherhood changed your way of thinking in the design process or your creative aspect?
I think it just helps me get into someone else's shoes better. It might sound like a cliche, but it makes you softer in many aspects.
Compassionate,
absolutely.
So what is the best piece of advice you've ever received that fundamentally changed how you approached work?
I think one of the things that changed my work was from the very childhood, my father always said to me that there's nothing called fear. It's only till you meet that fear exists. So whatever you're scared about, do it. And once you do it, you'll realize that fear does not exist. It's only in your mind. And that actually changed a lot about the way I live my life. So it could be any tiny fear, but just go and face it. And it's done.
Looking back at your numerous accolades, what do you consider the greatest recognition of your work so far?
The greatest recognition is more and more people wearing what I've designed, and that the jewelry really makes a difference in their life.
Thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation.
Love being here. Thank you, Neha.
Thank you.
From sketches on childhood walls to crowns that touch the cosmos, from prayers cast in gold to sculptural forms that defy convention, Pallavi Foley reminds us that design is not just decoration. It is expression. It is instinct. It is identity. If this conversation inspired you, remember, creativity begins when you trust your inner eye. Until next time, keep creating and keep expressing.